Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me around the fireside tonight. My name is Joe, and I'm here to tell you a story. A story about the moon and the stars, and the ocean and a wise wolf. A story about the journey of life portrayed in a wonderful way. A story about a little girl who just did not know. Proudly presenting Sadie, a story about a girl that just did not know. Written by Andreah Barker. This book was an absolute pleasure to read and has some gorgeous and captivating illustrations. I strongly urge you to pick up a copy for yourself, and you can find more information on the books and the author at www.sadietellstories.ca. I sincerely hope you enjoy this episode, and please let me know if you do by leaving a comment, a like or review, and subscribing to whatever platform you're listening on. Now please, get comfortable, let go of the daylight, and join me for our story. Sadie, a story about a girl who just didn't know. Written by Andreah Barker. There once was a girl in this world who didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. She spent all her minutes of all her days exploring each and every room of the house in her head. Within each nook and into every cranny she peered, and still there was nothing. Not a spark, not a speck, not even the tiniest little morsel of a clue. She thought and she pondered and she questioned. She pulled each and every single memory off the shelf and studied them with care. And still, nothing. Not a spark, not a speck, not even the tiniest little morsel of a clue. Until that one day when she decided she should wander down the only dark hallway in the house in her head. It was the creepy one with all the dust and all the spider webs and all the covered windows and all the locked doors. She didn't like it there at all. She didn't like it one bit. And so she never went there. Never, ever, ever did she go there. So why, on that one dark day, in that one dark moment, did her decision maker decide to venture down that almost long forgotten path? Because she finally figured out that it must be where all of the answers were hiding. If she continued to ignore it, she would always be the girl who just didn't know. Left foot, then right foot, then left foot, then right foot. One in front of the other until her legs carried her forward past the first door, and the second door, and the third door, and the fourth door. Finally, after what felt like hours, she stood staring up at the biggest and dirtiest window she'd ever seen in her whole entire life. It was at the very end of the longest, darkest hallway in the house in her head. Maybe the thing that drew her subconscious there was one of the thin streams of light pouring out from one of the tiny little tears in the curtain hanging behind the glass. She peered between the fabric to see what she could see. Nothing. Nothing at all. Could she have let herself be fooled again? Maybe, just maybe, there was no answer. Or even worse, the scariest of possibilities, the most horrible of all options. Nothing was the actual answer. She was scared. She wanted to run. Something told her to wait. To stop. to be still, to listen. But nothing came. Hope wouldn't let her leave, and so there she stayed. Stood stock still, waiting, knowing that the real answer was still hiding there somewhere, not knowing how to find it or where to look. As the seconds ticked by and the minutes crawled past, she wondered how long she'd be made to wait. Forever or never. For always, for nothing. No, patience was all. She'd stay until needed. She'd figure it out. But boredom set in and challenged her plan. You can't simply wait. There's no good in that. Do something, do something, do something, do something. The voice got louder and louder and louder. Stop! There's just nothing, she thought. Nothing at all. But Sadie knew that couldn't possibly be true. It just couldn't, and she knew what she needed to do. Just stop. Just breathe. Just listen. And so she did, and boredom ran away. In the stillness and the silence, she was able to hear that there were tiny voices quietly floating by. She leaned her ear closer to the particles of dust as they danced through the air. Could her ear have been right? She leaned down again. Silly girl, they all said as they softly flew by. But why? She cried. Why? I've looked in all the places and explored all the things. Could it possibly be that the answer for me is simply just nothing? No, they chuckled. Silly, silly, silly girl. So silly, so silly. It hit her suddenly and came from nowhere. Nothing was wrong and nothing was right. She just needed to learn more. She couldn't do that here, standing at the end of the longest, darkest hallway in the house in her head. So she opened her eyes, and she opened her heart, and she opened her lungs, and she reached out beyond herself. She had no idea how the adventure would end. She had no idea how the story would begin. There was no road with a fork in it. There wasn't even the hint of a path. Just forest upon forest, as far and as wide as the eye could see. Look up, Sadie. Look up, look up, look up. A chorus of whispers called from the sky. So Sadie looked up and wondered out loud, have there always been so many stars in the sky? Of course, Sadie girl, you just never looked up. She was sure she had, but she was too lost in amazement to say so. Wish, wish, wish. What's your wish, Sadie girl? She knew she must have lots, but in that moment, every single door and every single window in the house in her head seemed to slam shut. She had no idea what to say. The cacophony of voices began as a whisper and grew to a dull roar. She doesn't have a wish. The girl just doesn't know. She just doesn't. What does she want? She just doesn't know. Sadie, 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 how can we help you if you just don't know? Sadie had a whole ceiling of stars waiting to help her with her wish, and she couldn't decide because she just didn't know. Tears slowly streamed 2 streams down her cheeks. If only for this once, could I not be the girl who just didn't know? The stars applauded. The trees cheered. She made a wish, and it came true. Sadie's look of confusion must have betrayed her. You did it. You wished a Sadie wish, and it came true in the instant you made it. The biggest star in the sky twinkled just for her. You're now the girl who knows exactly what she wants. Sadie stood there thinking. It took a second, and then it took a minute. Oh, I get it. You're right. I'm no longer the girl who just doesn't know, because I'm the girl who knows what she wants. She wants to know. Right. Good night, sweet Sadie. We can't wait to hear what you wish for next time. Sadie couldn't wait either. So you've got a wish, do you? Now what? The moon smiled down its strange, moony smile. Oh, I don't know. Sadie hadn't really thought that far ahead. She was too excited about figuring out her wish. What exactly don't you know? Which way to go? Sure you do. The only thing Sadie was sure of was that she didn't. No, I really, really don't. And although I am now the girl that knows what she wants, I'm also the girl that doesn't know how to find it. And maybe I never ever will. That last bit made the pit of her stomach heavy with sadness. Did the moon just frown? She didn't know, but sigh he did. That she was sure of. That's not the Sadie I've come to know. What happened to the girl who dreamed and who questioned and who was open to the wonders of the things that might be? Was she ever that girl? She couldn't remember. She just didn't know, so she just didn't speak. Her body stood up and her legs started walking. Forward she went as if she knew where to go. But why she went forward, she just didn't know. The moon did though, 'cause the moon knows all. Sadie, do you want to understand the wisdom of the moon? Yes, moon. Yes, I do. I want to understand the wisdom of the moon. It's to remind you nightly with the start of each dream that as an old one ends, a new one begins. So move forward as you are and dream your new dream. Pondering the moon, Sadie very quickly learned that there was something to be said for looking down too, because all of a sudden the field turned to sand. Not expecting the sand, she tripped one foot over the other and ended up with her nose full of it. A voice jumped out from the water, sending her heart into her throat and her sightline forward. The water's nice and warm. Jump in and join us. The water didn't look nice and warm at all. In fact, it looked the complete and exact opposite. Who knew what hungry, horrible thing awaited her arrival beneath the water's edge? Oh no, she stammered. I don't think I will, but thank you for inviting me. Why not? Because no matter what you say, I've got eyes of my own, and what they see is darkness. Because no matter what you say, I've got a brain of my own, and it's warning me to be wary. Because no matter what you say, I've got a heart of my own, and it's beating faster than a heart should ever beat. And so the ocean promised, with its own eyes and its own brain and its own heart, that it would protect Sadie for just this one night, from all the things that she was scared of. Why would you do that? Sadie wondered. Because you need some magic to light your way, and I think I've got just the trick to get you going." Her better judgment knew the ocean could be trusted, but her fear wouldn't let her jump. So Sadie shuffled her knees to the water's edge, took a deep breath and touched the tip of her finger to the top of the darkness. Suddenly, magic. Sadie jumped up and ran as fast as she could, knee-deep along the shoreline. A choreography of beauty faded in her wake as little balls of light danced softly around her body. She walked out a little farther and twirled and laughed and splashed and laughed and laughed and laughed. Little balls of happy danced with her until she moved back towards the water's edge. "Ocean, you were right," she exclaimed. "That was the most wonderfully amazing thing I've ever seen." Ocean rushed up over her feet and crashed onto the sand in tiny waves of joy. The effect of the movement was more than magic. It was unexplainable with words and uncapturable by cameras. The coast lit up as far as her eyes could see. "Ocean, why wasn't I able to jump in? It's so beautiful, and yet I just can't jump." "Because you listened to your eyes and your brain and your heart, and you trusted yourself. You made magic happen in your own Sadie way." Sadie smiled and took one last twirl before saying, "Good night, Ocean. I'll see you again soon." Sadie walked out of the water with her head in the clouds and the wetness of her skirt clinging to her legs. Her thoughts were lost in the wonder of the moment. She wished she could find a way to remind herself of this very moment every day, especially on the ones when she forgot to wonder at the things that might be. "Hey, shouldn't you be watching where you're going?" Sadie came dangerously close to having a nose full of sand for the second time that evening. "Yes, I guess. It is late and it is dark and there are lots of unsavoury creatures like yourself skulking about." The wolf cub seemed to sit just a little bit taller, and Sadie liked him even more for it. "What are you doing out so late?" "I'm on an adventure." "Wow, I want to go on an adventure too. Can I come?" Sadie really wished he could, but she knew that this had to be a solo journey. "I'm sorry, Wolf. I've got to go this one alone." "I think you should probably let me help you. I'm good at things." She didn't doubt it. He was wise beyond his years. This she could tell even before he had spoken a word. "Okay, I guess you can help. I'm on a quest to figure out what I want to be." "Why aren't you happy with what you are?" "Oh, you don't understand. I want to know what I'm supposed to do with my life." It looks to me like you're a girl on a journey to discover the world. Aren't you already being? Aren't you already doing?" "You just don't get it. I've asked the moon, and I've asked the stars, and I've looked in all of the rooms in the house in my head, and although I know that I want to know, I still don't actually know what I want to be when I grow up." "I think it's you who doesn't get it. The stars shone brighter, the moon smiled bigger, and the ocean danced like it never had before. All of this because of you. You're the girl who wants to know, and so she'll keep on learning." "How do you know all that?" "I can see everything from the ledge up there." Sadie looked up, and knew exactly where she needed to go. The steps looked like they had been carved millions and millions of lifetimes ago. There were jagged ones and bumpy ones and smooth ones, and ones that were barely there. They went up, 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 as far as her eyes could see. After all those years, why hadn't someone thought to build a guardrail? Sadie really wished someone had. She wondered if more people would climb them if they had a little help. And then she knew. The only way to go from here was up, and so up, up, up she went. Left foot a little higher than the right, right foot a little higher than the left, and so on, until she had made it more than halfway up the cliff. Sadie looked up. The steps near the top looked treacherous. She wasn't scared. There was no turning back now. She wondered if Wolf was still down there, watching her continue on her quest. She thought back as she navigated her way up and marvelled at his wisdom. How could someone so young know so much? Wolf had helped her realise with each step she is already being. She is being the girl who met the moon and learned that it was possible to have more than one dream. She is being the girl who experienced the magic of the ocean by simply letting go and trusting herself. She is being the girl who spent each moment of each day doing her best to feed the good, wise, empathetic, joyful, hopeful wolf so that the mean, angry, ignorant wolf wouldn't ever win. She is the girl who knows exactly what she'll wish for when she meets the stars next. She is the girl who is excited to tell her story so that one day others will take the chance and climb the cliff stairs too. Sadie reached the top of the cliff just in time to watch the sun climb above the ledge. She was no longer the girl who didn't know. For now, anyway. Good morning, sunshine. Today is my day. The end. Good night.